Hey, what's up, guys? It's Oakley, and CA now has officially revealed Total War Warhammer Realm of the Wood Elves. It's an $18 DLC that is going to come out in about 2 weeks on December 8th. So previously, CA had kind of teased this, and I did a video off of that teaser, and now obviously this is the official reveal trailer here, and some gameplay was shown off from Eurogamer and other sources, so be sure to check that out. I'll link it below. I had the nice little privilege of actually traveling recently to Creative Assembly myself. They invited me there for the mod summit. We got to play the DLC too. It was cool. Lots of other YouTubers were there. The modders were there. My first time at CA offices, and it was very cool to see all the rewards, how the team works. They had some good interaction with us, and then of course a lot of drinking towards the end of it. So they had a really good time, and as I said, we got to play a bit of the one of the scenario battles for the Wood Elves against the Beastmen, and then we also got the campaign explained to us. They showed us a lot of stuff, and it's always appreciated when CA gives you an up-close look at things. But yeah, the great thing about the Wood Elves is the character art is phenomenal. I think with every DLC they just push it further and further, and that is the benefit of having, you know, people were complaining at first that, oh, we're not seeing very many factions. But the reason for this is, look at the DLC. Look how crazy awesome each of the new DLCs is, how deep the unit models are. So definitely very appreciated. And some of the animations that you'll be noticing in the game, like that attack that you just saw where he storms the ground. So instead of just being an area of effect attack, he storms the ground, punches, and that's Durthu. He punches the ground, and then his roots from his hand go into the ground, and then they pop out of the ground and knock units about. So a lot of work went into this, which was really cool to see, obviously. And yeah, this trailer here is going to come to an end relatively soon. They're basically showing off Orion, and he is here going to do, you know, the wild hunt, calling it. But yeah, now we're going to hop over into a bit more of the substance, which is going to be gleaned from not only my own interaction with CA, but also what they've posted on Steam, which is a bit more extensive. So they started off here basically talking about the campaign playstyle, and the playstyle is awesome. Actually really cool. They did a lot of interesting things. So obviously you start off in the realm of, or the woodland of Athaloran, and you have the Oak of Ages in the center. And traditionally the Wood Elves in the lore are very isolationist, but they give you an incentive to expand outwards, and actually they're one of the only factions that can capture any settlement. However, when you do so, it doesn't become a Wood Elf settlement, and instead it becomes an Asrai lookout. And then that lookout can then be tuned to do various things. It can be used for recruitment, replenishment, or I believe the third one is it buffs a little bit of your economy. But yeah, so that's kind of the gist of it. You're mostly isolationist, but you have to expand outwards for a resource called Amber that we'll cover later. So the Wood Elves are going to be playable on the main campaign, but then also in their own special story campaign, which is kind of a focus on Athaloran and Bretonnia in the region. And it's called The Season of Revelation. It's playable as either Durthu or Orion. So the Wood Elves, two legendary lords with different starting positions, tasked you with uniting Athaloran in the face of Bretonian incursions, and then later a series of fearsome climactic attacks from the Beast Lord, Warlord Morgur. So we got to see him in a custom battle, which was again awesome. The Oak of Ages here is something to talk about. Going from left to right, it grows over time because it's a 5-tier wonder. It's a single tile, a single building that has 5 tiers, and you can upgrade it over time using Amber. And the more you upgrade it, the more buffs you get for your entire region and your entire population. So visuals to show it growing, and then actually it can get destroyed. And if it does get destroyed, they have this awesome animation that we didn't get to see, but we heard about, you know, the whole thing going up in flames. But yeah, here you can see the Oak of Ages tile in the center. And so the only real settlements that you have are the settlements of Athaloran. Past that on the grand campaign, like I said, you can't build anything. You can't build any settlements. So each of the tiles in Athaloran can host up to 10 building slots in it. Whereas even the largest city capitals in traditional Total War Warhammer only has, you know, 6 slots. So that's a cool benefit. So Amber, you know, what drives the Wood Elves to expand past Athaloran? Well, it's going to be this limited resource called Amber. And Amber is, you know, something on top of gold that you need to use. And you can invest it in certain things. You can invest it to get certain technologies that would otherwise take too long or take a lot of gold. You can invest it in technology. You can invest it in elite units. And then you can also invest it in the Oak of Ages. The way you get amber is it's not generated over time. It's a kind of a finite resource, and you get it by holding different settlements. So the size of your settlement that you hold within Athelorn has a certain amount of amber that it may have to its name, so maybe 3, and then you can use that up, and then it's down to 0. But if you create an alliance with another army or with another faction, you actually gain access to their amber, which is an interesting idea to promote alliances. And then once you take over other settlements outside of Athelorn, as we were talking about, you don't have production in those cities, but what you do get is you get the equivalent of however strong they were when you took it over. You get that amount of amber or some equivalent. So 1 for a smaller one, 2 for a larger, 3 for an even greater settlement that you took over. So kind of a cool mechanic to incentivize you to move outwards. Right here I'm showing Athelorn as it was before. They've totally fleshed it out. And the trees here admittedly look really ugly. What they did do is make a huge improvement to that area. You'll see it not only in the Grand Campaign, but also the Focus Campaign, where in the Focus Campaign, the Athelorn region has like a wintry area, a spring area, a summer area, very cool stuff. Talking a bit more about the infrastructure here, they mention how there's a Wood Elf Council, which allows you kind of buildings that unlock offices, and then you can put your different leaders into those offices to get bonuses and buffs, and one of them allows you to be the Herald of the Hunt. You can then call it a Wild Hunt, which essentially gives you a big buff to your aggressive capabilities, more martial powers, bonuses, and it's kind of a campaign or a campaign feature that incentivizes again the Wood Elves to go on these big bloodlusting campaigns. Will allow you to charge out and go get some amber. Next they talk about Orion, King of the Woods. So this guy, we got to play with him. He's pretty cool. Powerful melee warrior who can also cast a little bit of spells with his long range spear attacks. And he has some abilities like Hounds of Orion, it's a vortex, and then the Hawk's Talon, a magical bombardment. Again, magical abilities like these didn't seem to do too much damage, but he's just going to be strong in the fact that he's a good melee combatant. Now the other character is going to be Durthu. So he's one of the kind of the ancient treemen. I think he's one of the first ones. And basically he's a huge, powerful warrior and also a spellcaster with the access to Lore of Beasts. And what's interesting is you can play as either Durthu or Orion, and one of the cool things about them is they represent, kind of split halves of the forest. So if you play as Orion, you're going to focus on the elves and recruiting spirit troops like treemen, and units like that. In order to get the spirits on your side, you have to expend amber. The same thing goes for Orion. If you're Orion, then you can recruit normally spirits of the forest. You get treemen, you get all the other bench rates and things like that. You get the creatures. But if you want to get high tier elf units, then you have to expend amber. So there's a kind of a cool duality of that that I really liked. Then here they go ahead and announce the new lords. You have Glade Lords, Ancient Treemen, heroes, which are spell slingers, which are mage focus, branch rates, which are mix of melee and mage, and then waystalkers, which are spy ranged focus, which is cool. And take a look at the unit models on the right. They were absolutely beautiful. Like I said, CA did a lot of depth into all of these. Looks great. The animations are fluid. The elves on the stags in the background look great. And then in the distance, you can see Durthu, you can see one of the great eagles in the back right, and then you can see a forest dragon on the left. Elves in the rear as well, just foot troops, spearmen on the right, on the left some more spearmen. So they had a fair amount of spearmen that were a little bit brittle and not super strong. And then on the left is the big unit roster. On the right is a bit of a video that I clipped from Eurogamer. So this is a couple outtakes. I'll link them below so you can check out the whole video. But you can see one of they're one of the spell singers, some of the elf bowmen. Their capes look glorious. And this is from this little scenario battle actually that takes place. That was really cool. There's a river running down the center with the high ground, and you have an entire elf army. You have an allied elf army at your back. And then from both sides of the battlefield, kind of sandwiching you, are going to be huge beastmen armies that come down this valley like this. And one of the interesting things about this is that here it's mentioning an aura around one of the beastmen lords, and that's Margul or Murgle, I can't remember his name. But anyways, he has a special ability where you see those units that are glowing gold. every 30 seconds or so, he uses an ability that makes the units around him invulnerable, including himself. And so you have to time your attacks for when he is not invulnerable, which was a really cool mechanic. All the kind of effects that you see right there were different archer volleys coming in to knock out the troops, so that was really cool to see. It looks glorious, and there's different bow fire types that you can get. You can get starfire shafts, which do fire damage, hagbane tips, which do poison damage, and then swift silver shards, which do magical damage. So a big mix there. On the left, I mean, I'll let you read that: melee infantry, ranged infantry, melee cav, ranged cav, magical cavalry, woodland spirit units, and then monstrous units, which are Great Eagle and Forest Dragon. Most of these I went over beforehand with the teaser. But man, oh man, was it cool to see the Wood Elves. Very fast, very nimble, a glass cannon of a force. They do have some nice meat, spirit kind of units like Durthu and the Treemen to hold the line. But the rest of it is pretty fragile. Bows can do a good amount of damage if you keep them out of range, and some of them actually can fire on the move 360 degrees. Some of them can even fire from the woods as they're concealed. And so yeah, that's going to mean a lot of kiting to be seen from the Wood Elves. But seeing as how every other faction is really rush heavy, it's going to probably favor the other factions who are just going to chase the Wood Elves down into a corner and then beat them up. Kind of single clicking attack orders, whereas the Wood Elves are going to have to be scrambling around. But at least I'm glad that they're introducing this faction to offer that sort of variety. So anyways, that's it for the overview of the faction. I'll probably do more content in the future talking about my trip to CA, but that's it for this one. Really good impressions for the Wood Elves. It's looking awesome. Units looking great. Faction mechanics looking great. And yeah, make sure to check out the links below for more. That's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned for more. See you in the next one. Peace out.